Alright, buckle up, because we're diving headfirst into Bong Joon-ho's masterpiece, Parasite, a darkly comedic thriller that'll leave you questioning everything. Let's skip past the initial intros, titles, and all that, because who has time for that when there's a story to unravel? We open on the Kim family, cramped in their dingy basement apartment, scrounging for free Wi-Fi, and desperately searching for a way out of poverty. It's a stark, unflinching portrait of survival. Kai-woo, the son, is struggling to get by. Then, a golden opportunity knocks. His friend Min Hyuk, a university student, offers him a job tutoring a wealthy family's daughter. This sets the stage for an infiltration of the privileged Park household. Little do they know, they're opening the door to a meticulously planned scheme. Kai-woo, now posing as Kevin, quickly charms the gullible Mrs. Park. He sees his chance and recommends his sister, Kai-young, as an art therapist for their son. Cue the elaborate plan to oust the current housekeeper, framing her for tuberculosis. It's ruthless but darkly hilarious. The Kims are now 2 for 2, and they're not stopping there. Next up is the family driver. Father Kim takes on the role of a replacement driver, after a meticulously orchestrated plan that exploits the former driver's phobias and perceived character flaws. The Kims now occupy positions of power within the Park family's lives. The Parks remain blissfully ignorant, oblivious to the web of deception woven around them. With every step, the tension mounts, the stakes rise, and the line between survival and manipulation blurs. Then comes the twist. A sudden rainstorm forces the Parks to cut their camping trip short, throwing the Kims' carefully constructed world into chaos. It's a race against time, with the housekeeper's return threatening to expose the Kims' entire facade. The battle in the Park's kitchen unfolds with shocking ferocity, and the consequences are both brutal and heartbreaking. The climax is a violent confrontation at the Park family's party. As the social divide deepens, class resentment reaches a boiling point, and in a moment of sheer desperation, the story culminates with an act of violence that no one saw coming, blurring the lines of morality. Kai-woo barely survives. His family are able to escape the Park residence and return to their old basement apartment. But his father, Kim, disappears. Kai-woo and Kai-young are convicted of fraud. Eventually, Kai-young dies in the prison hospital. This ending forces us to confront our own complicity in systems of inequality, lingering long after the credits roll. Parasite leaves you with a haunting meditation on class, ambition, and the dark side of the human condition. What do you think? What moment stuck with you? Let's talk about it in the comments below. Alright, let's dive back into the twisted world of Parasite. We pick up right after the chaos of the storm. The Kim family is back in the Park's luxurious house, secretly cleaning up, making sure everything is perfect before they return. But as they settle into their roles, a chilling message arrives. Dang-ik, the former housekeeper's husband, is awake and has been trying to reach her. The family is now in damage control mode. They know if the Park family ever found out what they had done, they'd all be ruined. Yeon-kyo, the Park matriarch, calls to let them know the youngest son, Da-song, is desperate for his favorite treat called Japaguri. It's like a hybrid version of ramen they concocted just for him, and insists that Mrs. Kim prepares it perfectly when they get back. Talk about pressure. Kai-woo's all, don't they know this has been a hectic day already? But regardless, the family knows the stakes are high. One wrong move, one slip-up, they're out. When the Parks finally return, everything is seemingly back in order, but there's an unforeseen variable. Mrs. Moongwang, the housekeeper, shows up at the front door insisting she needs to come inside. "I've forgotten something in the basement, please just for a few minutes," says. Yeon-kyo is reluctant but caves. A moment later, Mrs. Kim follows and they're in for a confrontation. Is that TB? You had her living in the basement. Mrs. Kim is at risk of losing all that she's worked for. She agrees to let the housekeeper come inside. Little do they know, Moongwang's arrival is about to unleash a storm of its own. She confronts the Kim family, revealing their parasitic scheme. "You had no plan. You lied to get in here." As they wrestle for control, Mr. Kim, the father, arrives and overhears everything, adding another layer of dread to the situation. This isn't just about jobs anymore. This is life or death, the truth or the lie. Mrs. Kim decides on a last-ditch effort to get rid of the housemaid, and it does work. All that is left for Mr. Kim is to clean up and act as if nothing happened. After a simple cover-up, Everyone is gone and all is silent. Mrs. Park tells Mr. Kim that Da-song had a very hard time when the housemaid and Mr. Kim's service were changed so suddenly. She asks that, when the party begins, he keep close by him, for she is very anxious about the party tomorrow and to ensure the weather is nice. As the family is relishing their victory in the Park's mansion, it starts pouring rain. Hard. Meanwhile, Da-song is haunted by the faces he saw as he was suffering, his only way of comforting himself with his new walkie-talkie. Tensions have been simmering for so long. This is like watching a pressure cooker boil over. It's a whole new level of chaos, and it's all set against the backdrop of this ultra-wealthy, ultra-modern house that the Kim family has wormed their way into and could lose it all in a moment's notice. Okay, so as we conclude this part, the rich Parks are completely oblivious, and the Kim family is about to face the consequences of the parasite they all have become. A great watch that will have you on the edge of your seat. Okay, here's a 15-20 minute engaging review script for Parasite 2019, focusing on key narrative elements while skipping intros, credits, and previews. Okay, so last we saw things were getting real awkward. The Kims, originally infiltrating the wealthy Park family's home as staff, were suddenly faced with a new threat: the former housekeeper's husband, living in a secret bunker beneath the house. The episode plunges us right into the chaotic aftermath. Mr. Park is increasingly bothered. There's a smell, a sense that the new staff has crossed a line. It's a really good tension builder. And Mrs. Park tries to figure out what's going on with the smell. The basement dwellers try to hold on to their place. The tension in that storm-soaked living room was unbearable. Mr. and Mrs. Kim struggling to remain undetected, the Parks completely oblivious upstairs, a masterclass in suspense. And then, disaster. Da-song's surprise party. Everything was going according to the Park's desires. That was when the tension really broke. That was one of the most brutal sequences I've seen this year. The violence that erupted was shocking and unflinching. Everyone's true colors come out. All pretense is dropped, and all sides start doing things you couldn't have predicted. The episode then masterfully shifts to the next day. At first all the poor in the shelter, and then later the wealth are just partying with their families. It's such an interesting dichotomy between the people suffering. The climax arrives in an explosion of pent-up resentment and rage, where allegiances shift, and any sense of morality is shattered. Park Dong-ik's reaction to the smell ends up being his demise. Kai-woo, impelled to a murderous frenzy, is unable to act. Kai-young is the first of the Kims to die. Then Kai-taek kills Park Dong-ik, then he disappears. It's chaos. Then calm sets back in. But this isn't the end. Time skips forward. Kai-woo is alive, and he is living back in